Why is it that the man who says nothing is the one she can't forget? Not the guy who begged, not the one who poured out his heart in 3A Mundary texts, not the one who argued, explained, and tried to prove his worth. Those men fade into background noise, but the one who went silent, who didn't respond, didn't defend, didn't react, that man stays in her mind long after the others disappear, because silence isn't emptiness. It's power. It's a mirror that forces her to confront what she lost. When you go silent, you take away your voice. Yes, but more than that, you take away validation. You remove your presence, your energy, your emotional availability. That absence shakes her frame. Women expect men to unravel when they leave. They expect to be chased. So when you don't chase, when you don't cry, when you simply walk away, her mind scrambles to make sense of it. At first, she'll tell herself you're just playing it cool. She'll wait, watch, expect you to cave. But as the days turn into weeks and weeks into months, fear creeps in. Not fear of losing you, but fear that she already has. And here's the truth. You didn't do it to manipulate her. You simply chose yourself. No grand announcement, no emotional scene. You detached, stoically, completely. That's why it hits so deep. Because it wasn't a game. It was a shift. You stopped trying to be understood. You stopped trying to be chosen. And that was the exact moment she began to realize you were different. Not because of what you said, but because you said nothing at all. If you're ready to stop making noise just to be heard, and let your absence speak louder than words ever will, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a comment below. I let silence speak for me. Number 1. Silence breaks the ego. The first thing silence does, it fractures her ego. She thought she had it all mapped out, that you'd break down, that you'd beg, that you'd react exactly the way she imagined. That's why she walked away with noise, why she made it public, why she said what she said, and posted what she posted. She wanted control of the final frame, the last word, the emotional upper hand. In her mind, your heartbreak was guaranteed. She just had to sit back and watch it unfold. She expected the text, the rant, the weak moment where you'd say, "Please, talk to me." That was the validation she craved. Proof. She still mattered. Proof. She still held power. And for most men, that's exactly what she gets. But not from you. You gave her nothing. Not a message. Not a reaction. Not even a shift in your energy. You disappeared into silence. Still, unbothered, unreachable. And that silence, it didn't confuse her. It crushed her. Because now the story doesn't make sense. She's not just questioning your feelings, she's questioning her own worth. Silence is a mirror, and with no words from you, she has nothing to cling to, no argument to replay, no closure to dissect. Just the space where you used to be, and all the thoughts that come flooding in. Did I misread him? Was I ever important? Did I just lose the best man I'll ever know? You didn't scream. You didn't accuse. You didn't chase. You just let go. You let the silence speak louder than any explanation could. And in that space, she spiraled. Because when someone is used to being your everything, and then suddenly they're met with nothing, that isn't peace. That's punishment. You're not ghosting. You're evolving. You're not punishing her out of spite. You're protecting your energy. That's what makes silence unforgettable. It's not passive. It's deliberate, focused, devastating, and it always lands deeper than any word ever could. Number 2, predictability kills respect. Predictability is a slow poison to respect. The moment she can predict your next move, the respect begins to die. She knew what you'd say, what you'd do, when you'd reach out. That's when the shift happened. Because a man who's predictable, who always replies, always available, always reacts, becomes forgettable. You didn't lose her because you lacked value. You lost her because you became a script she could read blindfolded. No tension, no edge, no challenge. And here's the truth. Women aren't wired to crave comfort endlessly. They crave stimulation, mystery, uncertainty. When she knows the second she pulls away, you'll text. When she knows every argument ends with you calling back. When she knows you'll always forgive, explain, or chase, your value collapses. Not because you're weak, but because you've become expected. And what's expected is never respected. But the moment you shatter that pattern with silence, everything changes. She no longer knows where she stands. The control. She thought she had gone. Now, she's the one checking, watching, waiting. And that unpredictability, it rewires her interest. You've shifted. You're no longer predictable. You're powerful. She checks your page more than you check hers. She asks mutual friends about you. Not because she misses the old you, but because she can't figure out this new version. Predictability is comfort food in relationships, but it's also the death of attraction. When you stop being the man she expects and become the man she wonders about, everything shifts. You move from her emotional safety net to her psychological challenge, and here's the part she'll never admit. The moment you became unpredictable was the moment she started craving your attention again. Number 3, mystery fuels obsession. Mystery is the fuel behind obsession. There's nothing that grips the human mind more than a question left unanswered. That's why mystery is the most powerful form of attraction, and silence. It's the sharpest tool in your arsenal. When she doesn't know where you are, what you're thinking, or who you're becoming, you take up space in her mind. Because the brain hates blanks, it must fill them. It needs to. And when the man who once shared too much suddenly says nothing, that silence becomes a puzzle she's desperate to solve. Here's the thing. In today's world, attention is everywhere. Validation is cheap. Most men overshare. They flood social media, spill emotions, just to feel noticed. But mystery is rare. And what's rare holds value. When you stop showing your cards, stop explaining every move, you force her into a game she can't win. Guesswork. That's where the obsession starts. She checks your stories. Nothing. Scrolls through your posts. Still, nothing. Looks for a sign, anything, and finds only silence. That's when her mind kicks into overdrive. She imagines you've moved on, pictures you with someone new, replays the best moments again and again, because you're no longer giving her anything new. So the past becomes a loop, and you become larger than life. Not because you've changed, but because she can no longer see you. Mystery creates space, and in that space, she fills the gaps with fantasy. And fantasy, it's often more intoxicating than reality ever was. That's what makes silence so lethal. It hands her imagination, the paintbrush, and she creates a version of you that no man can compete with. That version is flawless, untouchable, addictive, and that's the version she'll obsess over long after you've gone quiet. Number 4, emotional distance creates psychological weight. Emotional distance doesn't hurt her immediately. It confuses her, then it crushes her. When you were close, she had a grip on you. She could read you, predict you, manage your moods. You were within emotional reach, always ready to explain, defend, react, and that made her feel secure. Not because she respected you, but because she controlled the rhythm. But the moment you pulled back, quietly, without drama, the entire weight shifted. You became heavy, not loud, not angry, just absent, and that absence created pressure. You stopped sharing your thoughts. You stopped chasing her emotions. You stopped showing up in the ways she took for granted. Now there's space between you, not physical, but emotional. And that space feels like weight, not to you, but to her, because emotional distance removes the one thing her ego lives on, reassurance. She doesn't get your comfort anymore. No more. Are you okay? No more. Let's talk this out. No more emotional cushion to fall on, and without that cushion, her ego starts to collapse. She pretends nothing's changed, posts like she's fine, but inside, she feels it. She thought she had you wrapped around her finger. Now she wonders if she ever did, and that wondering, that not knowing, it spirals fast, because the mind races to fill gaps, and silence is the biggest gap of all. You didn't block her. You didn't explode. You just stopped showing up, not to hurt her, but to protect your peace. You chose distance, not as a tactic, but as a declaration. My energy is mine now. No arguments, no closure. Just space. And that space, that's what presses on her. That's what lingers. Because people forget what was said, but they never forget how silence made them feel. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't slam a door. You didn't explain your worth. You just pulled back, fully, calmly, quietly. And that quiet hit harder than anything you ever could have said. Number 5, detachment is dominance. You don't need to shout to take control. You don't need to argue to prove your worth. The most powerful move you can make, the one that changes the entire dynamic, is detachment. The moment you stop needing her, stop reacting to her, stop tying your value to her responses, that's when you become untouchable. Most men get trapped by emotion. They mistake love for attachment, attention for value, validation for truth. But detachment, that's clarity. It's where real dominance begins. Not because you control her, but because you finally control yourself. You're no longer moved by her silence, her games, her casual just checking in texts. She can do whatever she wants. And you stay steady. That unsettles her, because deep down, she knows once a man detaches, he becomes dangerous. Not because he seeks revenge, but because he no longer needs anything from her. You don't respond with coldness. You respond with calm. You don't block her. You let her see you thrive. You let her witness your growth without a word. Detachment isn't bitterness. It's discipline. It's walking away from what once held your emotions hostage and choosing peace instead. Here's what most men don't realize. Detachment doesn't just shift the power, it draws her in. It makes you magnetic. She senses the shift. She feels your energy change. You're no longer seeking approval. You're no longer chasing validation. And that absence of need, that's pure dominance. She'll test it. She'll poke and prod, looking for a reaction. But when there's nothing left to grasp, no buttons to press, no feelings left to manipulate, that's when she truly feels your power. Not because you fought harder, but because you walked away and never looked back. Number 6. The mind rewrites the past. The mind is a master of illusion. It doesn't just remember, it recreates, it reshapes. When you disappear, truly disappear, and stop giving her anything new to react to, her mind doesn't stay still. It starts rewriting, not consciously, but slowly, quietly. The story begins to shift. At first, she might feel relief, freedom, like she made the right choice. But as time moves forward and your silence holds, her certainty starts to fade. The bad moments, they lose their sharpness. The good ones, they start to glow. She remembers the way you laughed, the calm in your voice, the way you made her feel without ever trying. The moments she brushed off before now replay like scenes from a film, and suddenly, you're not the man she left. You're the man she can't forget. Most men try to force their version of the story. They send long texts, beg for closure, try to explain what really happened. But that just locks in the version of you that she already chose to walk away from. When you go silent, truly silent, you deny her something crucial, a target. There's no argument to hold on to, no dramatic scene to replay, no emotion to attach anger to, only space. And that space, it becomes a blank canvas. And the human mind hates blank space, so it fills it with meaning, with fantasy, with memory. She starts painting a version of you that's softer, stronger, more rare, not because you manipulated her, but because you vanished with power. Your silence lets her memory do what it does best: turn shadows into myths, turn regret into curiosity. It won't happen overnight, but over weeks or months, she'll realize she didn't just lose you, she lost the version of herself that felt something real with you. And the more she tries to recreate that with someone else, the more she'll realize they're not you. Number 7. Stillness signals evolution. Stillness isn't weakness. It's a warning, a signal that says, I'm not where I was, and you don't get to see where I'm going. When you stop explaining, stop defending, stop trying to be understood, something shifts deep inside you. You're no longer in the emotional arena. You've stepped out of the chaos. You're not swinging, you're sharpening. And when a man becomes still, the world starts paying attention to her. Your stillness feels like distance, but it's more than that. It's evolution. You're no longer reacting to her moves. You're focused, sharpening your edge in silence, upgrading without announcing every win. She doesn't see the late nights. She doesn't see the grind. She doesn't see the discipline, but she feels it. She senses something changing, something she can't define. That uncertainty. That's what makes her spiral. Because women know when a man is still but not stuck, he's building, he's becoming dangerous. She expected chaos. She expected emotion. What she got was calm. And calm signals strength. You're not seeking her approval anymore. You're not trying to prove a point. You're transforming on your terms. And when the time comes to reappear, you won't need to announce it. Your presence will say everything. Let her wonder. Let her speculate. You're too focused on your next level to explain your silence. Because stillness isn't retreat. It's power, being refined, layer by layer. You're crafting a version of yourself that no one, not even she, can predict. And that unpredictability, that's what commands respect. You've become a man who doesn't just move in silence. You evolve in it. Number 8. They test. You don't respond. When silence stretches too long, she will test you. At first, it will be subtle, a random like, a vague story, a simple hope. You're doing okay. She's not trying to reconnect. She's checking the temperature, seeing if she still holds space in your mind. Most men take the bait. They reply too fast. They fall back into the cycle. And just like that, she wins. But not you. You don't respond. Not from pride, not from spite, but from clarity. You understand the game. You've seen it before. You know exactly what this is. She's not reaching out because of love. She's fishing for control. Your reaction, that's the prize. If you give it, she resets the frame. She knows she still owns you emotionally, and her ego exhales. But when you remain still, when you give her nothing, not a like, not a comment, not even a flicker of response, that's when the shift begins. Now, the distance feels real. The detachment undeniable, her grip gone, and that's when the fear sets in, because now she sees you're truly gone. You've moved from emotionally reactive to psychologically unreadable, and nothing unsettles her more than a man she can no longer move. She'll try again, another test, another poke, but you remain unmoved, because every test you ignore sends a louder message. I'm no longer in this frame. You don't control this anymore. Silence is your sword, and wielded well. It cuts deeper than words ever could. She expected to trigger you, expected to pull you back, but instead, she's left with a void. And in that void, she faces the truth. You're not playing the game anymore. You've outgrown it. That's true power, not by reacting louder, not by proving a point, but by doing nothing, and letting that nothing speak volumes. Number 9. The return is never the same. Eventually she comes back. It might take weeks, it might take months, but it happens. A comment, a random message, an old photo, sent just because. She'll act like it's casual, like she's just curious. But deep down, she's hoping that the old version of you still exists. The man who used to light up at her name, who would drop everything to respond, who made her feel wanted effortlessly. But this time, she's walking into something unfamiliar. You're not the same. The man she left was open, emotionally available, easy to reach. Now, you're colder, sharper, more focused. You're not angry. You're indifferent. And indifference, it speaks louder than any revenge ever could. She'll sense it. In your tone, in your eyes, in the calm way you no longer react. The energy is gone. The urgency, the spark she once relied on, vanished. She'll feel the wall. Even if you're polite, because what she's facing isn't resentment. It's evolution. She's not coming back to the same man. She's facing a stranger, a man with boundaries now, a man who knows his worth. And here's the truth. she won't say. What she's trying to reclaim, it's no longer on the table. You've moved on, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You're not the man she remembers, and she no longer fits. In the life you've built since, you didn't wait, you grew, and now, she's not returning to something familiar. She's standing in front of something unreachable, a man who no longer needs validation, who no longer looks back. And that's what hits her hardest, because deep down, she knows the version of you she misses only lives in her memory now, and you're already living. In the next chapter, number 10, she'll never forget your silence. Words fade, memories blur, but silence leaves a scar, long after the arguments are forgotten, long after she can't recall what you said or did. One thing will remain crystal clear. You said nothing. When she expected chaos, you gave her calm. When she thought you'd beg, you vanished instead. And that silence, it lives in her mind. Rent-free, not because it was loud, but because it was final. Silence offers no closure, no validation, no comfort, just space. A space she cannot fill, a space that echoes. And every time her mind drifts to you, it isn't your last words that haunt her. It's the fact that you walked away with dignity, without looking back. That's what lingers. That's what drives her to check your page at 2 a.m., to ask friends about you, to wonder if she made the biggest mistake of her life. Because silence doesn't simply end conversations. It leaves questions, and humans hate unanswered questions. Why didn't he chase me? Did I mean anything? What is he doing now? You've become a ghost with gravity. Not loud, not bitter, just gone, yet somehow still present, and that kind of presence, even in absence, is unforgettable. She may date someone new. She may laugh with someone else. She may post as if nothing matters. But deep down, she knows she'll never meet another version of you. She'll never unsee the man who walked away. On his own terms, without needing to scream, without needing to beg, without needing to prove his worth to someone who couldn't see it. All you did was go silent. You pulled back your energy. You took your power with you. And in that absence, she felt everything, the strength, the control, the man she never truly understood until he was gone. And no matter who she's with, or how much time passes, that silence will speak louder than any words ever could. You didn't need to shout. You didn't need to beg. You didn't need to prove your worth to someone blind to it. You chose silence. You reclaimed your energy. You walked away with power intact. And in that absence, she felt everything. The strength she once overlooked, the control she thought she had, the man she never truly understood until he was gone. That's why silence lingers. It leaves space no words can fill. And every night, her mind drifts to the man who walked away without a sound, without a glance back. No need for revenge, no need for validation, only calm, only presence. And in that stillness, you become unforgettable. Thanks for watching The Stoic Spirit, where stillness becomes power and silence becomes legacy. If this message spoke to you, stay sharp, stay grounded. And if you're ready to walk your path with strength, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.